So for this login feature where we are having email or phone number and password, and for the login button, so we'll be discussing to write the test cases. So this is our test case template. So we have to start with the test types. Okay. So for the login feature, functional testing will be available. So where you are giving the input and validating the output. So in that case, functional testing will be applicable. And integration testing. So right now we only module available is login, and we don't require to test any other module. Okay. We don't require to test integration testing by combining two or more modules, because right now only a login module is available. Let's assume only login module is available and none of the other module is not started for developing. Okay. Right now only this page is available for you, that's it. So in that case, integration testing is not applicable. Database testing is applicable. So when you're testing and that particular test is hitting the database, so in that case database testing is applicable. Let's say when you enter username and password and click on login button, this data, whatever the data you enter, for example, so this data will validated against the data which is available in the database. Okay. So whenever there is a possibility that it is hitting the database, so database testing is applicable. Okay. So what we are going to do in the database testing, so we are going to check for any duplicate queries are firing, and we need to check for any unnecessary queries are firing. Okay, it's nothing but, so when I enter username and password, I click on login. Okay, so in the background, the code will be generating a SQL query, and that SQL query will be hitting the database. Okay, when it hits the database, so is that only one single query hitting the database or multiple queries hitting the database? Okay, so if there are one query, that's fine. If there are multiple queries are hitting the database, is that all the queries are required, or is there any duplicate queries are executed? Okay. So if you want to retrieve the data from database, or if you want to store the data to a database, we need to write SQL queries. Okay, it's like a programming language, like however we know Java or C or C++. SQL queries also, SQL query is also a kind of programming language for the database. If you want to deal with the database, you have to learn SQL or PLSQL. You might be heard of that, right? Installation testing. So if you are installing something into a system and uninstalling something, okay, so installation testing is applicable. Okay, seems we are not installing the, okay, so here it's not kind of installable. Okay, that's the reason I said it as a no. Log testing. Okay, log testing you can blindly go for S, because for every application there will be a logging mechanism, and this log will contain, this log.txt text file will contain all the information what is happening in the application. Okay, when you use a login to the system, so it prints some information saying that okay, this user logged into system at this point of time. Okay, so and this user is post some messages, user is created some message. So whatever the user performs the action, each and every actions will be logged into the log testing. Okay, so this log testing is very important when a system when system is failed. Okay, maybe the system is hanged, or the system is not responding, or it is all of a sudden got crashed. Okay, so what was the problem to the system? Okay, when you go for the log.txt file, and you can able to see the information related to the problem. Okay, so restart testing is nothing but restart your application and retest it once again and make sure it is working fine. Yeah, this is also applicable. And system testing is nothing but combine your entire product, combine your whole product and do the end-to-end user scenarios. Okay, so here I just has only one module, So I was not completed other modules, right? So in that case, let's assume the developers has developed only this page. Okay, that's it. Okay, no other page has developed. So that's the reason I said it is no. Okay. And compatibility testing, yes. Okay, you have to test your application. You have to test your application across all the browsers, across all the machines. Okay. So acceptance testing is nothing but a test cases which are given by the customer. Okay, a set of expectations. Okay, so customer will be having set of expectation from each and every future. Okay, from the login feature, customer will be having set of expectations. Okay, let's these expectations will be in the form of requirements. Will be in the form of requirements. Let's go through the requirements on login feature. Let's identify a the high level test cases are the acceptance test cases. You have to define it. Okay, usually these test cases will be defined by uh, a product owner. Okay, and from him we'll be copying to our test case template. Okay, in case if those are not developed, just go through the requirement. Okay, from the requirements, let's identify what is the user expectation. For the user expectations, write some test cases. Okay, so for example, for a login features, what are the user expectations? So user will be giving a username and password and clicking on login button, and it has to be logged in. And user will be giving a invalid password and invalid password and invalid username and clicking on login button. And that time it should not be logged in. Okay, these are the basic user expectations. Okay, which we have to write it on your test case template. So conformance and compliance testing is nothing but testing an application against the standards. Against the current standards. Okay, let's take for logging features and all, there won't be any particular standard. Okay, but if you take, for example, if we take a Bluetooth software, okay, so it will be having set of standards, okay, which are defined by some Bluetooth community or somebody, which are having some standards. Okay, so use your Bluetooth application was developed using those standards or different standards. Okay, we have to ensure if it is a Bluetooth application or if it is a Wi-Fi application, also we have to make sure that is that application is developed using set of Wi-Fi community standards. The reason is, so if you follow the standards, so you can able to communicate with any other other Bluetooth device or other Wi-Fi device. If you don't follow the standards, so you'll be writing on your different way, and other device has difficulty communicate with you. Okay, so that's the reason this conformance or compliance testing is important. So what do you think about for performance testing? So do we require to write it? Let's take some input from you. So Swapna, you have any input? Performance testing, testing the product for its responsiveness. Raj, Sunny, Sonia, Mohib.
It's a speed of
Yes, exactly.
Performance,
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Sunny.
performance testing should be if everybody logged in at once, multiple users are logged in, so the system would
Yes,
not.
yes, something like that. Okay. So in the performance testing, so we look for the we look for the responsiveness of the system. Okay, how the system is responding. Okay, with a normal load, in the normal load of a system, how it is responding. Okay, so let's say, let's take an Amazon website. Okay, so I think Amazon website will be a little bit loaded in the evening. Okay, so in the afternoon and all, people and all will be in office and they'll be doing the work. Okay, so they don't have time to log into the Amazon and then search for something. Okay, so maybe in the evening, once they come back from the evening or night, when once they come back from the office, they'll be having some time and they'll look for some products, right? So in the same way, so in the normal, in a normal load, so what is the system responsiveness? Okay, so we have to write it. So where do we get how many seconds the system has to respond for your action? Let's say I'm logging into the system. I'm logging into the system. I'm entering some username and password, clicking on login button. So when I do this, okay, and click on login button, in how many seconds the application should be logged in how many seconds the application should be logged in a normal load. Okay, so this information also will be given to the customer. So most probably it should take not more than 4 seconds. It should not take not more than 4 seconds. That is a little kind of standard. Okay, so some application response in within 1 or 2 seconds, but it should not be not more than 4 seconds. Providing that a proper internet connection. That's about performance. And when it comes to load testing, okay, so testing the product at the maximum load, at the maximum load. Okay, so how do we know what is the maximum load? Okay, customer gives you the information. Customer will give you the information. So maximum load is nothing but, okay, so my application should have a, uh, a 10 crore users, and it should have at least 1 crore different variant kinds of products. Okay, so and it has already 5 crore orders in the database and 5 crore transactions. Okay, so this is what the maximum load customer defines it. Okay, so in this what you have to do is, so in this maximum load, how your application is behaving. Okay, so increase the load steadily. Okay, increase the load step by step gradually, and reach to the maximum load. Okay, and ensure your application is responding properly. Okay, in the maximum load, the application might respond slower than what it is usually responds in a normal load. Okay, in the maximum load, it will be responding little bit slow comparatively in a normal load. But once we reduce the load again gradually, slowly, okay, the system should come back to the normal behavior and it should respond in a normal way. So that's about load testing. Okay, so in the maximum load, how your application is behaving is what load testing. So yes, this is applicable. Okay, so let's finish all these test types. Okay, and then we'll start writing test cases. So endurance testing is nothing but, so I have given some definition here. Testing the product for a long time and ensure the system is not crashes and it's not leaking memory. Okay, so this is not required for us. Okay, so the reason is that, so usually endurance testing done, you'll be not only accessing only one particular feature. Okay, you'll be accessing multiple other features. Okay, so log into the system, do some actions, and then perform log out. You'll be doing, or we can do one thing. Okay, we can also make it as, yes, what we can do is, okay, log into the system, log out, log into the system, log out, like that, do for long time. Okay, so do for some 2 days, 3 days, like that. Okay, endurance testing is has to be done for long time, constantly. So usually it will be 7 days. Okay, minimum 7 days. So minimum 7 days, your test will be continuously doing login and log out, login and log. You'll be writing some automated script which will make sure that login and log out. Okay, like that for 7 days. And so after the 7 days, make sure your application is still running fine and it is not crashed, and there are no memory leaks, and it is responding properly. Okay, so that's how that is your expectations. Stress testing is nothing but a kind of load testing. Okay, in the load testing, we'll be giving the maximum load, right? In the load testing, you'll be applying the maximum load, and you are ensuring so the system is responding fine. Okay, whereas in the stress testing, you'll be you'll be increasing the load beyond the maximum load. Okay, you'll be increasing the load beyond the maximum load. What customer defined about the maximum load? He defined some 20 crore users and 1 crore products and 5 crore orders and 5 crore transactions. That's what he defined the maximum load. But in the stress testing, you are increasing the load beyond 20 crore users. Okay, so beyond 1 crore switching, 1 crore products, and beyond 5 crore orders and transactions. Okay, so you are increasing the load beyond the maximum load until your system breaks, until your system crash. And once it is crashed, make sure it is not revealing any sensitive data such as user related information. That's one thing. And measure at what level of data your system is crashed. At what level of data your system is crashed. Okay, so this information also you require to provide to the customer so that he'll be take care. Okay, so my users are reaching more than maximum load. Okay, it's a time to scale my application, otherwise it's gonna crash. Okay, so he'll be aware of it. Okay, we have to give so at how many number of users and at how many number of products and transactions and orders the application got crashed. So there is a question in the interview. So what was the difference between load and stress testing? Okay, so you just have to define the definition. Load testing is nothing but testing the application on the maximum load. Okay, so load testing is nothing but increasing the load steadily and reaching to the maximum load and ensuring it is not crashed and it's not leaking memory and it is responding. Okay, whereas in the stress testing, we will be increasing the load beyond the maximum load. Okay, until it crashed. Spike testing. So spike testing is nothing but, so in the load testing or stress testing, what we do is we'll be increasing the load gradually. We'll be increasing the load step by step. Okay, slowly. Whereas in the spike testing, at all of sudden, you will be increasing the load. Okay, at one shot, all of very sudden you will be increasing the load all of sudden. Okay, so right now only some 1,000 users are there in the system, but all of sudden you will be increasing the user load to some 20 crore. Okay, all of sudden, very sudden. Okay, whereas in the load testing, what happens, you will be increased 1,000 users, 1,000 users, 1,000 users, like that. You will be slowly increasing the users every second, some every second 1,000 users. Okay, so like that you will be reaching to 1 crore slowly. Okay, whereas in the spike testing, you will be increasing the load all of sudden. Okay, and ensuring that it is not crashing, it's not leaking the memory, and it is responding. Okay, that's what you are going to do in the spike testing. Okay, so when it comes to the scalability testing, okay, so now it's a security testing. So is there anything to ensure in the login feature? In the login feature, is there anything to ensure the security point of view? Uh, Any idea?
Password.
Okay, so password should be in like this dots, right? Am I right? So usually if you enter username, it will be visible, and if you enter the password, it should be in the dots. Okay, that's one thing. Anything else? Anything else we had to ensure, Swapna? Or Raj, Mohib, Sunny, Sonia? What else we can ensure in the security? So security is very important, right? So especially when you are logging to your banking system. Okay, so what happens if somebody knows your username and password? So when you are working for a login feature, okay, so at this point, okay, for this feature, is there any security related things which we have to ensure in testing? Okay, so this, okay, I'll let you know one more thing. Okay, when you enter username and password and click on login, this username and password should not appear on the URL. There is a post and get kind of URLs. Okay, post and get kind of request. When you hit a login button, got it? When you hit a login button, this username and password will be traveled across the internet, right? When you click on the login button, this username and password will be traveled across the internet, and this will be combined in a request, and the request will hit the server. Okay, so we have to make sure that this username and password are not appearing on the URL. Okay, so such kind of basic testing which we have to do for the security. And scalability is nothing but, okay, so it will be usually ensured by no other people, performance non-functional testing people. So scalability is nothing but, so your application should be scalable. That's it. It's nothing but, let's say today your application is supporting 10 crore users. Okay, 10 crore users, and that's well and good, and that's working fine. Okay, but later what happened? Later, so the application got very famous. The application got very famous. Okay,
Oh my God, what?
the application got very famous, and it has gaining more and more users. Okay, more than 10 crore users, you know. So that time, so your application should be scalable. Your application should be scalable to support the number of users are coming into your applications. Got it? Okay, if you say that, let's say, so the customer said initially, so my application at least should support 10 crore users. Okay, so as per the customer request, we have developed an application which support 10 crore users. Okay, now you are asking me to support more than 10 crore users. Sorry, we can't support it. So we have developed the application such a way that it can only support 10 crore users. Now we cannot support more than 10 crore users. If you say like this to the customer, what happened?
They leave.
Yeah. So they will,
They will leave and go to another website.
yeah, they will leave and go to other vendors, different other vendors. Okay, not only the same company, right? There are so many companies outside who can do your work, right? Okay, so they will cancel the contract from you, and they will go to, they will find out some other company. Okay, if you lose a contract, you will be losing a lots of billions of dollars from the customer. Okay, so that's the reason you have to make sure that, so we don't know when customer will come to us and say, so it should support more than 10 crore users. Later, you supported 50 crore users. Again, they will come and say you that, okay, my application now deployed to other countries. Okay, So I'm going to get hundreds of crores users. Okay, so let's support it. We don't know when they are going to come and say, so scale my application. Okay, so we have to make sure that your application is scalable to support more number of users, n number of users. Okay, so for login feature, I don't think so it is applicable. Okay, we can say yes and we'll test it. Okay, okay, for scalability it is yes. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is, okay, so we'll be having 10 crore users already in the database, and we'll be logging in once again. Okay, uh, so we know your application will support only 10 crore users. Let's keep 10-20 crore users and try to log in. It should log in. And when it comes to concurrency testing, what we're gonna do concurrency testing, any idea? Just see the hint and give me some suggestions.
At a time, we are using number of users.
Okay. Hmm. So there is a chance that yeah, you are right, Swaptam. So there is a chance that okay. So there is a chance that n number of users will be logging into the system. Okay.
System.
If you take a banking application or Facebook, so it's very much common, right? N number of times people will be logging into the application. Okay, and we have to ensure uh, as a tester, we have to ensure that this particular application doesn't have any problem when multiple users are logging into the system at the same time, because every time you log into the system, okay, at the backend the same piece of code is going to be executed. Okay, so if multiple users are logging to the system and the same code will be executed multiple times, in that case how it's going to behave. Okay, so we have to make sure that even multiple users are logging to the system at the same time, so your application is still working. Okay, that's one thing. Or you take an example of a fund transfer. Okay, so simultaneously there are some 100 people are doing the fund transfer. Okay, so what happens, will all this fund transfer will be success, or anything is going to be failure? Okay, so we have to make sure that it is all are working fine, all fund transfer are going fine. Okay, so when it comes to the login application, so it should allow all the users to be logged in at the same time. Okay, that's one thing. So we have to test that. Okay, at least some 10 users are able to log in at the same time. So recovery and resilience testing is nothing but, so usually it will be applicable in banking applications. So what happens if the data got lost? Okay, so what happened if the system got crashed? Okay, so earlier it is used to be a very much a big problem. Nowadays things are centralized, right? Okay, so whatever you do, everything will be go and sit in a centralized database, and that will be having another backup. Okay, and usability testing, how usable your application to the user is nothing but usability testing. How usable your application to the user. Okay, let's say there is a username here, and there is a password is defined here, and there is a login button is defined in one corner of application. So login button is one corner and password is another corner and button is another corner. So will it be usable for the user to log in? Is that usable? Is usability is nothing but how easily user can access your application, how easily user can access your application. Let's say if the login button is somewhere and email is somewhere and password is somewhere, okay, will it be easy for the user to access it?
No, it would be difficult for the
Correct, no?
users.
So he has to search for where is the username and where is the password and where is the login button. It will be difficult. Okay, so we have to make sure that the application which was developed, the future which is developed is easy for the users to access it. Or you have any suggestions? Yes, you can give those suggestions to the developer in the form of a defect. That's about usability testing. So what kind of test case you can write? The login, but the username and password and login button should be at the same horizontal level or in a vertical level, right?
It's user friendly.
Yes. So documentation testing, and I don't think so for login feature there will be a documentation. Okay, so we can say documentation is nothing but help document. Okay, for the login feature, what kind of document you require. It doesn't require anything, right? So let's see here only it is giving the hints. So enter the first name, enter the surname, enter the email, enter the re-enter the email. Okay, it's giving the hints here only. Okay, there is no need of having a documentation for the login feature. Localization is nothing but okay. So testing the application in different other languages. Okay. So let's say if you change this language to Spanish, you should see this entire page should be displayed in Spanish. If you change this page, no, if you change the browser language, if you change the browser language to a Chinese, the entire application should be displayed in Chinese labels, all those things. Okay, that's what about localization testing. Testing the application across different languages is nothing but localization testing. Okay, so this template I'll be saving and I'll be sending to you. Okay, so we done with the test types. Okay, we done with the test types. Now we identified what are the test types are required and what are the test types are not required. So now we have to write the test cases for all the applicable test cases. Let's add a filter here. Let's sort a filter. Okay, let's make it as let's look for what are the test types applicable. Okay, so total 16 test types are applicable. Okay, so now our job is to write test cases for each test type applicable. Okay, let's say for functional testing it is applicable, functional test type is applicable. Go here in under the functional test cases, write some test cases. And database testing or acceptance testing, it is applicable. Go to the functional test cases, write some acceptance test cases. Okay, so whatever is applicable you have to make sure that in that section you write some test cases. Okay, so this one we are going to do in our next class. Okay, so with which by completing no by completing writing test cases for each and every test type, so we'll be completing writing the test case designing the test case document, and we'll next step is reviewing our document, and once the review comments are fixed we'll be executing it. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So till now, why we had to do all these test types? Why we had to make sure test type analysis has to be done? Okay, so it is to make sure that we go in a systematic approach. Okay, so if you don't do this test type analysis and directly jump to write the test cases, and whatever it comes to your mind, you'll be writing the test cases, and that will not be a systematic approach of writing the designing the test cases. Okay, so we have to go in a systematic approach, and for every test type which is applicable we make sure we write some test cases. Okay, it's nothing but we go in a systematic approach. Okay, that's the difference between a tester who taking the, is, that's the difference between a software tester and a normal tester. Okay, so a software tester or a tester will be making sure that he goes in a systematic approach. Okay, the other people, the end users, okay, like for example, you went to a shop and you wanted to buy a pen. Okay, what kind of test you do? Okay, whatever it comes to your mind at that moment, you will be doing it, right? So you wanted to just write, take a pen and write it on the paper and make sure it's working fine. You not even open the pen and see whether refill is fully there or not. Okay, so we'll miss something. Okay, as we are not going in a systematic manner, we'll miss to test some of the test cases. Okay, but in the software testing, we have to go with the systematic approach in order to identify the test cases. Okay, so that's fine. So in our next class, we'll be completing this functional and non-functional test case writing, with which we'll be completing the test design, and then test review and test execution and defect management. Okay, and few other topics are there, and we'll directly go to the Selenium. Okay, that's how it will be.